Yes, good afternoon, good folks. Jermaine Ferrell in the house, and it is WFXR Sports Fastlane time. And joining me as he does each and every week, the man, the myth, the legend, the head hokey. He's fired up about March Madness. My man, 100 grand, Sammy Eanes. And what's up, Sammy?
Jermaine, how you doing today? Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy March Madness. It's one of the better sports weekends of the year, in my humble opinion, and not just because the Hokies are in it this year.
I hear you wearing green today. I didn't get the green memo. I should have realized it was St. Patrick's Day.
It's all right. No worries.
That's right. But anyway, speaking of luck, how about Chase Briscoe getting it done out there in the Valley of the Sun, winning out in Phoenix? So many things he's done. Not only did he get his first win, it was also his first ever top 10 finish. And also for NASCAR, he becomes the 200th different driver in the history of the sport to win a cup race. First of all, Sammy, so much to unpack from the race, but just give me your overall view, throw some flavor on it, give me a taste of what you saw in the Valley of the Sun on Sunday.
I thought it was an awesome race. Phoenix rarely disappoints. No exception this past Sunday. And yeah, the other Chase Briscoe finds victory lane, first career win, and really just a cool story when you think about a guy who grew up in Indiana, idolizing Tony Stewart, gets the opportunity to drop the number 14, and then let's be honest, didn't have the greatest rookie season. I think he finished 23rd, 24th in points last year. He come out and he's had some good runs already this year. He led a couple laps at Fontana, then obviously getting the win. And really, I thought the most impressive thing was holding the win at the end on both those restarts. He was leading for both of those. He was able to hold on and win, outlasting Kevin Harvick, who was up there with him on one of them. And then you had two other drivers who were just as hungry as him to get their first Cup Series win in Tyler Reddick and Ross Chastain. Also itching to find victory lane. He outlasts both of them, drove like a veteran. I thought it was really cool to see and a great moment for Chase Briscoe. And who knows, this could open the floodgates and lead to even more wins for him and the SHR 14 team.
Here's something that Fox sent out, and I'll give credit to Fox because, if I get a stat, I'm going to give them credit. Just like if I get something from you, I give you credit. But this is crazy. So through four races, there have been four different race winners, four different pole winners, four different drivers have finished runner-up, four drivers with multiple top five finishers, four different drivers to lead the most laps in a race, four different drivers to win stage one, and four different drivers to win stage two. Can you wrap your brain around it? I mean, are we seeing something that NASCAR wanted to hear and see? And that is the next gen car evening out this playing field.
Small sample size, but it definitely seems that way right now. As you're seeing all these different drivers up leading laps, winning stages, competing, four different winners. I'll throw another stat out, and I'll give credit where credit is due here as well to the great Bob Pockrass. If you're a NASCAR fan and you don't follow Bob Pockrass, you probably should, and you probably already do. But if you don't, he tweeted out, this is 10 straight races with a winner under the age of 30, which has never happened in the history of the Cup Series. NASCAR has had this big push for several years now, promoting the next generation of drivers. And much to the chagrin of some of the older guys, I remember Kevin Harvick, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, laughing about the lack of wins among the drivers that NASCAR had out there on their promotional materials. Well, we're seeing maybe a changing of the guard here, and you're seeing Larson, Blaney, Reddick, Chastain, Briscoe, Austin, Cindric, these different drivers getting up and winning. And, those three guys that finished top three this week that we just mentioned, Chastain, Reddick, and obviously Briscoe, they're also top five in laps led this year, which is something interesting, and then Ryan Blaney's up there as well. You do have Kyle Busch in the top five as well, who's the lone guy over the age of 30. But I think this is exactly what NASCAR wanted to see with this next generation car. And I had a feeling if we're fly on the wall in the NASCAR offices, they are hoping that this trend continues throughout the season.
I mean, and here's, I got to ask you, Sam, and we were talking about how this season was going and the previews and everything like that. But in your wildest dreams, and again, it is a small sample size because we did talk about last year how we could reach that 16 winner cap, for the playoffs and all that. And we're a quarter of the way. We got four different drivers. But in your wildest scenario and anything like that, did you see us getting off to such a strong start? Because last year was a strong season, the season that the greatest season ever. But I feel like this year we're getting off to a torrid start.
We really are. And it's because of the stats you just rattled out. It is the different drivers leading laps. It's the different drivers winning stages. I did not expect this, to be honest. I didn't expect to see people like we talked about him last week, Denny Hamlin, struggling so much this year. Yet another finish outside the top 10. That's 4 in a row this season for a guy who was the dominant driver all of last season. So yeah, I definitely did not expect it to be quite like this. Again, I feel like NASCAR has to be very pleased thus far, and we'll definitely hope that this trend continues as we go on. But like you said, last year we were talking about, oh, is we going to get more than 16 winners? We ended up not, mostly thanks to Kyle Larson going on an improbable run. But I think we'll see it maybe settle down a little bit more, and we'll see maybe some more of those familiar faces up there competing and leading laps and winning races as the season goes on.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, when NASCAR they do those promos, they were talking about those certain drivers. Well, you're right, baby. They might have to put more drivers in those NASCAR promos. It's not just the usual suspects, but I'm going to circle back to this question now. It just seems like Hendrick, they figured this thing out, and some of the other drivers, with the Chevys and the Fords. But again, it seems like Toyota, particularly Joe Gibbs Racing, and you figured through the law of averages, they were gonna win one of the first 4 races. They were in position the previous week, but it just seems like JGR really is struggling with this.
They really are. And as you said, Hendrick won 2 of the 3 races out on the West Coast swing. Ford having a really good season. We talked about after the Daytona 500, was this going to be kind of a resurgent year for Ford? Because quite frankly, they did not have a good 2021. I mean, yeah, Toyota really struggling. Kyle Busch has been consistent and run pretty well, but we just talked about Hamlin's had some tough runs. Truex hasn't been himself. Christopher Bell, quite honestly, hasn't been very good, even though I picked him as a dark horse last week, which obviously that didn't work out too well. And then, as much as I hate to say it, Bubba Wallace, after that second place finish at Daytona, has really struggled the last 3 races. So, Toyota, experts in their R&D, they're going to go and see if they can figure out something with this car as the season gets into the heart of the schedule. And I know that everyone at JGR 2311 Racing, they are all hoping they can figure something out and get up there and start competing collectively as a group for the OEM this year.
And finally, as we touch on this, do you feel like with what has been going on in the first 4 races, do you feel like that this puts pressure on a lot of drivers to step up? Because if you're seeing other drivers win, does that put pressure on certain other drivers to, hey, I'm seeing Chase Briscoe win a race, and I'm seeing, these other drivers, do well, like Austin Cindric you mentioned, and, Chastain doing well. Does that put pressure on certain other drivers to, hey, get it done?
I have to think for some that it does, especially when you talk about some of the other younger drivers who have not won races yet, Bubba Wallace, Chastain, Tyler Reddick, guys like that. I feel like that there has to be some sense. I know if it was me behind the wheel of those cars, I'd be like, okay, these drivers are figuring it out. They're finding out a way to win races. What is it? How can I go with my crew chief and figure that part out? I think for guys like Denny Hamlin or Harvick, who have struggled at times, they have enough under their belt and enough experience, or Brad Keselowski, who after a great Daytona run has really struggled as well this year. I think those guys probably sit back and say, okay, I'll lean on my experience and I'll figure out how to turn things around this year. But I have to think for, some of the younger drivers who have not won yet, it certainly adds to their pressure.
When you say Kevin Harvick, it makes me want to go get a sandwich. Like Jimmy John's, Subway, all those places that we're sponsored. When I think of Jimmy, I think it's sad when you think of certain drivers, like, obviously, and it's the sponsors, and maybe that's what they want with fans. Like Kyle Busch, you think of M&M's, and back in the day, certain other drivers with their sponsorship makes you think about that. And it's so neat. And I know I'm kind of going a different direction, but that's, I'm sure, you think about when you think of a driver, you think of that who their sponsor is. And it's been that way obviously for years. It's not just this year, but throughout the years.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point, NASCAR, the sponsors, the teams, they would love to hear you say that you think about X brand, X sponsor when you think about a driver. And the marketing folks at NASCAR probably have a line about that in a deck somewhere that they send out to prospective sponsors of just what you said, of people recognizing brands related to drivers, especially drivers who do well.
Like I remember growing up, Cal Yarborough, he was Hardee's was his sponsor. And DW, he had Tide, but before they had Mountain Dew.
Mountain
So,
Dew.
so how
Yeah.
about that? Laundry detergent and soda is a good sponsorship combination. So of a soapy soda, as they say. Anyway, we're gonna move on, and finally, NASCAR, come east, young guys, as they are coming back east. And basically they're racing at, a practically a brand new track as they get it going. It's going to be the Fold of Honors Quick Trip 500, the Atlanta Motor Speedway. That's going to be this Sunday, 3 o'clock. It's going to be a little more than an $8.2 million purse. Coverage of the race begins on WFXR and Fox at 2:30. 500 miles, that's 325 laps. Stage one ends at lap 105. Stage two ends at lap 210. And the final stage ends at lap 235. And Sammy, last year's race winner was Ryan Blaney. But as we said before, 163 days to redesign the track. So obviously it's a brand new track, which is obviously and to add on to that, Sammy, I mean, obviously you're on the next gen car. So whatever notebooks and notes you had about Atlanta, throw them away, throw them in the trash. You can't really use them. New track, next gen cars. Just your thoughts about this new track, because even though it's an old facility, new track.
Hey man, super wild card in this race in a way that we haven't seen in a while. You hit all the high points. New pavement. First of all, that completely changes the way a track races, and most drivers hate that. You heard a lot of displeasure. I mean, I don't know if you remember back in, I think it was 2017, Atlanta announced they were going to repave, and the drivers basically protested to the point that they pulled back on those plans. The drivers like the worn out asphalt. It creates different grooves, more opportunities for passing. But Atlanta needed it at the end of the day. All tracks need to repave at some point. So you've got the new asphalt, but then on top of that, you've got the next gen car. Like you said, the first time that this car has visited this track, just the second intermediate track so far this season. Then on top of that, Atlanta increases the banking in the turns, 24 to 28 degrees. It narrows the racing surface from, I think it's 50 to, 50 to 40 to 55 to 40 feet. Sorry. That's huge. You're cramming the cars in there tighter, higher banking. I know the hope is to get some semblance of super speedway racing at Atlanta. So I think if the racing is very successful there this weekend, I think you may see some other mile and a halves. Think about repaves, think about reconfiguring the tracks to potentially make the racing a little bit better there. And I think the other thing that's going to be interesting to watch, and let's hope there's no rain in the forecast in Atlanta this weekend, but SMI talks a lot about the drainage and the engineering they put underneath the asphalt to hopefully make that track dry faster, which is another could be game changer for NASCAR in the future. Because look, at the end of the day, we all know there are going to be races that are impacted by rain at some point during the season. So if you can get that track dried faster and get back to racing, that is a huge game changer for NASCAR.
That's good stuff right there. And then looking at the history of this race in Atlanta, Sammy, that Dale Earnhardt Jr., I'm sorry, not Jr., Dale Earnhardt Sr., he's got the most wins in Atlanta with 9. But current active drivers, it's Kurt Busch. He has 4 with his last win coming in 2021. And then Kevin Harvick, he's got 3 wins there. His last win coming in 2020. Brad Keselowski, these are active drivers. He has a pair of wins there. Kyle Busch with a pair of wins there. And then Ryan Blaney, as we mentioned, the last race winner there in 2021. And then Denny Hamlin, he has a win there. So obviously it's going to be a neat thing. And then your pole winners actively, Kevin Harvick, he's got a pair of poles on that. But everybody else, pretty much in the single digits. So the mile and a half track is going to be a fun time. So let's break it down. Give me your winner, Sammy, and give me your dark horse.
I sat down for a while with this one, and it was almost like Daytona. I almost just felt like putting all the drivers' names in a hat and pulling them out because of all the things we talked about, the new car, the new track. Who knows how this thing is going to drive this weekend? I think it could be a total crapshoot, but hey, we're not here for crapshoots. We're here to make picks. So if I have to make a pick, I'm going to go the guy you just mentioned, Ryan Blaney. 3 straight top 5s in Atlanta. I know it's the old Atlanta, but he's run really well there lately. As you said, he won this race last spring. If the racing in Atlanta does end up like a super speedway, Ryan Blaney is a really, really good super speedway racer. So I'm picking Ryan Blaney this weekend to keep that under 30 streak going for winners in NASCAR. And then as for a dark horse, I don't know that he's necessarily a dark horse. I know his odds have gotten better throughout the week, but I'll go Ross Chastain. Back-to-back top 5 finishes. He has brought speed. He and his Trackhouse team have brought speed to the track every single week. He also is a pretty good super speedway racer. If the racing does end up being like a super speedway, he has top 10s in Atlanta in the Xfinity series. So I go Ross Chastain as my dark horse this weekend.
And then I'm just looking over some of these notes from NASCAR, which, it's great when they send out notes, because then it actually makes me look like I'm I'm smart when I know I'm talking about NASCAR, but I also steal a lot from NASCAR. But that's why they give it to us. We take the notes, we digest it, we roll with it. But looking at it, and we kind of talked about it again, it says here since the inception of the NASCAR Cup Series in 1948, the 1950 season holds the record for most first time winners in a single season with 12, followed by 1956 with 10. The 2011 season holds the record for most first time winners in a single season during the modern era with 5. So of course we mentioned the parity, and we mentioned you mentioned the young guns doing well. So this is going to be a fun time of the year. I mean, like I said before, seeing the parity, because again, we're not seeing the same drivers do it, although we're almost putting Kyle Larson in the same old category, because it's kind of like betting on Tiger Woods back in the day to win a golf tournament. You can almost pretty much bet your bottom dollar that Kyle Larson's going to be in the mix. But it is a great time. It's a fun time just to see, new drivers, different drivers doing well. So it's fun. And again, Atlanta, like you mentioned, is going to not bring the rain, but maybe bring the pain for some people.
Pain and some excitement for others. Yeah, shout out to NASCAR comms. As you say, they do a great job putting out those notes each and every week so that we can be informed and provide educated commentary for all the good people at home. But yeah, there's two schools of thought. Some people think that you need dominant drivers to go out there and be winning all the time. I'm more of the school of thought that that parity is very good for NASCAR. It's very good for the sport. I think you look at one of the reasons the NFL is so successful is that there is a lot of parity, and that teams can go from very good to very bad, with a few exceptions, obviously, quickly. So I think parity is good for the sport. I think it's good to get sponsors involved. I love what we saw last year. I love what we're seeing this year, and I hope that it continues throughout 2022 and beyond.
I tell you what, you're one guy that don't need the notes. I mean, you know your stuff. So that's the reason why you are the WFXR Sports Racing Insider, racing expert, racing extraordinaire, because that's how we roll here on the WFXR Sports Fastlane on WFXRTV.com. With Sammy, I tell you one thing, I think we're gonna have a different driver. I think we're gonna go 5 for 5. So I'm not gonna make a prediction because again, this is a whole new track. So we will see how it goes, and obviously we'll also see how it goes tomorrow. Virginia Tech men and women hitting the court. The women play at 2:30 and the men play at 4:30. So a little March Madness, and we're gonna rock and roll with it.
Yeah, huge weekend for Virginia Tech athletics. Last weekend was massive. Top 3 moment in VT athletics history, maybe. I was talking about that with some other Hokie buddies of mine. Can't be understated for folks who are maybe new to the area. And when I arrived at Tech, I'm dating myself. We were a very middling Atlantic 10 program, struggling with the likes of Fordham. No disrespect to Fordham. My senior year at Tech, first year in the Big East, Tech finished 2-14, got blown out by Providence and Syracuse and all Villanova, all the teams in the Big East. So if you told me then that in 21 years Virginia Tech would beat Carolina and Duke back-to-back nights to win the ACC championship, I would tell you you're probably on something. So huge weekend for both the men and women. Good luck to the Hokies this weekend, and kudos to both teams for making it this far.
Good deal. Well, Sammy, we appreciate you like always, each and every week on WFXRTV.com, WFXR Sports Fastlane. Again, thank you so much, sir. And we will catch you on the other side as we drop the checker flag on this week's show.
Yep. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the racing and enjoy the hoops.
Good deal. And that does it for this edition of the WFXR Sports Fastlane on WFXRTV.com. Again, you can catch a new episode each and every week. We will put it on the thing every Thursday, and you can see what Sammy got right and what Sammy got wrong.
Hey, if we're keeping score, I'm getting a whole lot more wrong than I am right.
Well,
let's be real.
But here's the thing: when we're figuring out, we're in the next gen car too, so we got to figure it out. I mean, we're winning, but we'll figure it out. We got to go. But anyway,
That's right.
As usual, you're the man. And again, I'm Jermaine Ferrell. I hope all of your teams are winners. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone, and go racing!